G'day guys, or welcome to another video. Now, this one is not too long, but I do go pretty mixed media heavy. But I'm showing you a new, I won't call it a new technique, maybe something I sort of stumbled upon in my playing with different things. Now, what I'm actually doing is I've just cut up a piece of Vicky Bouton's Foundations mixed media paper. And I'm just going to town and just putting some of my cheap floral stamps on there with the Vasaline ONYX black ink. Now, you could go over the top of this ink with some clear embossing powder if you want to make sure it definitely doesn't move when you add inks or liquid or whatever to it. But I wasn't terribly concerned about that because the technique that I'm going to show you actually uses Vasaline. Now, Vasaline is basically petroleum jelly. It's clear, odor-free. You might use it on your lips in winter. You might use it on your cracked fingers if you're of a certain age, not mentioning, age or anything. That was way too much, by the way. The amount of Vaseline I put in there. I didn't want to contaminate my Vaseline. So I went in, and as you can see, all I'm doing here is I'm just using an old brush. Use an old one because it wrecks your brush. Well, it wouldn't wreck the brush. You could clean it, but I buy these brushes so cheap, it doesn't bother me. So I'm just going along and I'm just putting a bit of Vaseline. Basically, it works as a mask, right? So I'm going along and I'm just putting a little bit on the outside of the leaves. Now, it works as a mask until right at the end. Now, trust the process. This works. It's cheap. It's a way to use your Distress Oxide sprays another way. It just gives you a different look. So stick with me. Trust me. Now, I do zoom this in here in a minute because I realized I'm zoomed right out and it would make a whole lot more sense if you could see it more up close. So I am just going to town with my OXIDE sprays. So I'm coloring some of the flowers. Okay, don't spray green next to abandoned coral because the two will mix and you'll get muddy brown. Like, don't do that. But maybe pick some colors that are more cohesive. Okay, so now I've zoomed it in. Can you see what I'm talking about? So what's actually happening is where the Vaseline went down, you can see it's staying white. So the color didn't, so it's working as a resist, yeah? Okay, now, can you see there's like little bits of Distress Oxide and it's like beaded up on top of the Vaseline? Here's where the magic happens. If you hold your heat tool nice and close, it doesn't burn anything, nothing. You don't get odors, you don't get any of that sort of thing. Trust me, I've played with this a little bit, so trust me, I'm a professional. And what I actually discovered is when you hold the heat tool nice and close, it almost dissolves the Vaseline and it allows the oxide ink to stay in those little dots, in that little dot formation. So now can you see when I'm touching it, they're not moving. So now I'll be honest with you, I have tried everything to get the tiniest little flecks and specks before, and this is a winner. Okay. At the very end, you'll see where I zoomed in on them, and I have taken some photos of them and they'll be up over on Facebook and on Instagram if you want to have a look at this technique. It is super simple. It is not an expensive outlay, other than obviously you've got your Distress Oxide inks that are in your collection that you may have been collecting over a little bit of time, and your stamps. Look, these stamps I picked up from the reject shop for a couple of bucks. They were not very expensive. I haven't outlaid a lot of money for them, and I reuse them every so often. So it's no big deal for me. I absolutely love this technique. And I'm not even saying that lightly. It looks so pretty on the flowers. It really does. So something else I thought of that you could have done as well is you could have put and I did play with this, you can put the oxide, you might want to put a different ink down, maybe even just a distress ink, so it's kind of transparent, and then the color you spray on top, that could give you a two-toned effect. I just went with the very basic, simple kind of look. Can you see how the leaves look, the petals look different? And, you know, because we all ink blend, we all do different things, different techniques, but this is just one that I thought we can all do. It's not costing you a fortune. The reason I use the mixed media paper is because last time I did a technique very similar to this, using the watercolor and whatnot, my flowers didn't hold up super well after I had fussy cut them. So I wanted to use a mixed media paper to help me out. Now I'm moving on to the background. This is not foundations paper. Here is why you use foundations paper. I was not intending using very much liquid on this background at all, so it didn't really faze me. I've pulled out my distress watercolor pencils, which I haven't used for a while. Are you proud of me? I stopped using them constantly. I love these things. They are so good. If you haven't got any, like, check that out. It just completely changed the background, just with a very light spritz of water. And I know it looks like there's a lot of water there, but there's really not. So I'm just going through and I'm trying to get the water to wick out with the colors. So getting it to wick and give you some of those crazy sort of, that background without it just going all over the place. Like, I didn't want to put too much water on there because I realized after I put a few of the colors on there that this is not watercolor, and I didn't put gesso on there. Duh. I don't know why I did that. So I'm doing a diagonal. I'm doing a diagonal design, and all I'm doing here with my brush is I just wanted to blur some of the edges just a little bit more, not a lot, because I prefer that wicked out look. When I say wicking, so what it actually is when you add the water to the pigment, it sort of goes a bit, the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like a firework. It just sort of runs. You know, when you're looking at a fire and you get some of the purple, some of the red, some of the yellow, and it just sort of flows in together. That's the best way I can describe it. And I love that look. So this is different. This is just a different way of doing it. And I'm using circles, which I absolutely love using, and the bright colors. I have pulled my POSCA paint pens out there. Now, all I'm doing there that you can't quite see is I'm just rolling my paper across the edge of my table just to sort of straighten it back out again. Look, I don't get too worried about my cardstock if it warps a little bit with the water. So to be honest, the main reason it doesn't really bother me is because once it goes into my album and they're all squished up together, there's some are going to have texture, some are not, some are flat. So a little bit of warping doesn't stress me. Now here I'm using a couple of different thicknesses of my black POSCA paint pens. I'm using them for a reason, because I do intend on putting a little bit more liquid on this page and they won't run. Once they're, like, when they're dry, they won't run again. So what I decided to do was I was going to just use the black soot watercolor pencil. And the reason you see me here, I'm only just strategically putting a little bit on there. I don't want the black to take over my color. But because I have black around the edges of my flowers, and there's a little bit of black in the photos, I needed to have a little bit more black in the background. See how I'm just touching it with the liquid, and see how it's only just wicking out, just the tiniest bit. The only reason I'm doing that is because I don't want these to look like perfect circles. I mean, they are, because I traced them, but I want it to sort of have a little bit of bleeding, a little bit of wicking out. So I think it's looking really good. I was loving this process. I could have done this all day long. I love doing this sort of thing and creating my own backgrounds. And in order to make sure that I'm not destroying the integrity of the cardboard too much, I just turn it over. The cardstock, I mean. Just turn it over. Now, I love me some distressed edges, so I just distress the edges a little bit. That also helps with, there's different techniques to put things across, you know, the around the border. You know, you can have distressing, you can do some sewing on it, you can do some tearing on it, you can double mat it, you can triple mat it, there's so many different ways you can do that. You could even pull out a border punch if you wanted to. You could remember those old school scissors, and they've got different shapes and stuff, and as you cut them, it cuts a different border. You could even do that along the border. All of those things work, totally work. So I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. Now, it's at this point that I decided I do want some teeny tiny splatters permeating out from the mixed media, because I don't want those two big white patches to be too big. I don't want them to be too vast. So I'm just going through and I'm putting some Distress Oxide down. Now, the colours that I used were, let me have a quick look. Which page am I doing? Okay, so I used Abandoned Coral, Twisted Citron, and Squeezed Lemonade. They're the three colours of Distress Oxide inks that I sprayed on my flowers. And then the pencils, I used Mustard Seed. I used, I didn't write them down. I should have, shouldn't I? I will have a quick look because I'll remember it when I see them on the box. I used Black Soot. That was the black that I used. And the other colours, I used Mustard Seed, Candy Apple with a little bit of Barn Door, a bit of Spiced Marmalade, and Rusty Hinge. I think there's a little bit of Rusty Hinge in there as well. So they're the colours that I sort of just all pulled from the same colour family, and they work together. So the circles in the background are warm. The flowers going on top are warm as well. I mean, the green's more of a yellow green. So yeah, I Twisted Citron, I sort of like to pair it with the warmer colours. I don't know why that is. That's just me. So I am no colour expert. I will chuck it out there right now. I'm not a colour expert. It's just what appeals to me and my eye, and that's what I use. So you can do the same thing. These are our own craft rooms. This is our own. I had someone say to me the other day that I should call my craft room a studio because it makes it sound so much more professional, and I really like that. I like the sound of that. I don't know if I could probably adopt it because as an Aussie, we don't like people that are up ourselves. Like, that's just not, if you up yourself too much and you're a bit uppity, it just, doesn't sit well with us. So I like the idea of imagining that my scrap room is a studio, but it's my scrappy, crafty, messy spot. Is what it is. What do you reckon? Would you call your crafty, scrappy, mixed media-y place, would you call it a studio, or do you just call it a craft room? Let me know below. The other thing I wanted to apologise for is it actually happened today when I'm doing this voiceover, but it was a couple of days ago. I was having no end of trouble with YouTube the other day loading up my videos, and because I had done 3 or 4 in a row, and I was trying to load them up, and I'm very much aware that I need to load up one at a time, right? And I did that, and one of the videos, it was up to like 80% and it stopped loading. Anyway, I had already moved things into folders and all the rest of it. Anyway, somehow I got myself all confused and befuddled, and I ended up loading up the same video 2 days in a row. So apologies to the first 70 views on that video. And thank you very much for everyone saying it to me, because I don't watch my videos back once I've loaded them up. I've got a real thing about listening to my own voice. I mean, tell me, are you the same? I just can't. I don't sit and analyze every little word that I say. I want my channel to be... I want you guys to realize that I'm just doing this with you. I'm not... This is not polishing, well refined, all the edit tools under the sun. Like, it's not, that is not what my channel's about. My channel is about showing you that you can create this as well. That's what it's about. I want to teach you different ways. I hope that most of my videos teach you something. You may have already seen the technique before. I might just break it down a little bit further for you. I might show you a different take on it. For instance, the Vasaline, you know, I know you can use it as a resist, absolutely. But did you know if you keep heating the Vasaline that the little beads on top actually embed into the paper and don't go anywhere? I didn't know that, and it was only through playing with mixed media that I discovered this. So by all means, if you use this technique, please share it with me. Share over on the channel. And, you know, I want to see if anyone else decides to give this a crack, because it looks so pretty. These flowers look stunning. And to be honest, years down the track, I will probably look back at this and go, how did I do that? I can't remember how I did that. So maybe I should write the techniques on the back of the album, on the back of the page maybe. I don't know. But I absolutely love this part of it. Now, these leaves, they were fussy cut from a sheet of Vicky Bouton paper. Which one it was, couldn't tell you. Do you want to know why? Because I fussy cut them all, and then instead of, I normally get the, what's it called? The branding strip. And I usually cut out the section that says Vicky Bouton, and then it says the collection and the page word, whether it's a word or a number or whatever it is. I usually do that and stick that in the snap block bag, and that way I've got it. So I know when I use the leaves, I know where it came from. Well, bow, didn't do that. So unfortunately, I have no clue where these came from. Fussy cut them all out because I was going to do this really big elaborate page, and yeah, guess what? Didn't do that. So that's cool. So I'm just putting these leaves in and I'm tucking them in. I did go around the outside edge of the leaves with my black soot ink, and that's purely to give it the same uniform look as the flowers. And when I just tucked them in, you can see some off to the side there that I haven't got any ink on. And you can see how they look pretty and they look great, but they didn't look finished when I put them next to the flowers. So sometimes if you're having a look at, and you might be doing something similar to this, different technique or whatever, but you might have leaves and you might look at it and go, oh, it just doesn't look right. It could be because your florals have the black edge on them and your leaves don't. So just have a look at that next time you are doing something along these lines, and you might find yourself on a winner chicken dinner. So now I'm just adding a little bit of gold glitter Ranges Stickles. It's Ranges Stickles and it's gold glitter. Okay, I set that back to front, sorry. So I will have everything listed below that I have used in the creating of this video. Let me know if you like it. Is it something that you would possibly recreate? I did go around right at the very end and do a pen border because I thought it tied in the circles, and I think it finished it off. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I genuinely appreciate it, and I am busy in the background working on a few other things. So let me know if you like this. I did smudge the black ink that I flicked on there. I should have just gone with the black oxide, but anyway. It's all right. It's part of the process. See the wicking? See how it looks really cool? And you can see, I think I'll bring it up a little bit closer shortly. So you can see the little specks on the flowers? They look so pretty. It honestly looks adorable. I love it. So let me know if you're going to give that a crack. Below there is my Instagram, my Facebook, our Facebook group. It's all linked below. By all means, share it if you give it a go. And yeah, I love it. I love how it turned out. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will chat with you again real soon. Bye for now.